Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm Alan Barry Laboucan. I'm the host of the show and the founder of the Alan Barry Reports. I'm here at the Roundup conference in Vancouver. This is one of my best shows that I go to. It gives me an opportunity to look at drill core, look at maps, try to figure companies out. And I just happened to have found one here in Wolfden. And my subscribers will know I've been covering Wolfden for a while now. And what got me interested in Wolfden is they found a new discovery out in Manitoba, and it had been worked in the past by Inco in the 40s and 50s. And this is the kind of drill core that they were hitting. This is the top of the drill holes that the Gabbro unit that Wolfden is drilled into. You see the core is much bigger, and they're getting a much better understanding from a geological perspective. But what Don, the president and CEO, is going to talk to you about is you've got a few different packages of rock here. And when you go through this Gabbro, you then get into a new set of material. Then you start hitting the stuff with copper and nickel mineralization. This is about 0.5% copper and 0.48% nickel. And then you get into the real high-grade material. Here you're looking at 1% copper and 4.33% nickel. This is much different than what they were drilling back in the day. And this is a new discovery, part of the Wolfden story that has me very excited. And so I got Don Hoy here. He's the president of Wolfden. And Don, I've kind of set it up now with where we are. Don's going to start talking to you about the drill holes and the maps, and you can start to understand how things are happening three-dimensionally below surface. So Don, I'm going to turn it over to you for a while.
Thanks, Alan. This is a good place to start. It's a longitudinal section of the Rice Island deposit we know it. It's based upon the drilling we completed in the fall of 2015, as well as the historical drilling that was completed by Inco in the 1940s and 1950s. And what it shows the mineralization itself. The Gabbro unit that Alan was talking about, the core, is located right here in the blue. The Gabbro is underlain by this pink zone, which is the zone of blebby sulfide mineralization.
Hey Don, before you get into that, why don't you tell people a little bit about what a Gabbro is, how it gets there, and how that means something to all of this?
Yeah,
in sort of simple terms, because
sure.
Not all my audience are geos.
Okay. Yeah, the Gabbro is an intrusive rock, and it originates from molten material deep in the Earth's crust. And it's an iron-rich rock, and the iron is very important from the point of view of nickel. And these deposits form when these magmas ascent from the mantle close to surface. And
then
the
they
magmas
kind of hit that Gabbro, don't they, and sort of look for a place.
Yeah, there's usually a conduit or a passageway or a fault that allows these magmas to reach these upper crustal levels. And then in a magmatic deposit, there's sort of two components in the magma. There's what they call a silicate phase, which is really the gangue minerals, and there's a sulfide phase. So there's two components in very general terms in these makmas that ascend to the surface. What happens, depending on changes in temperature and pressure, those two phases separate. So the silicate separates out, which you would have up here.
Okay, and the Gabbro.
And the sulfate phase, because it is heavier, it'll sink gravitationally towards the bottom of the magma chamber. So that's basically what we're looking at here, where the magma is ascended, it's made the ascent to surface. The silicate phase is separated out, resulting in the Gabbro that you're seeing here that's unmineralized, and then the heavier sulfide part of that magma is settling to the bottom of the chamber. So it's very much a gravitational settling that is controlled by changes in temperature, pressure, and other conditions there.
So what we're seeing here is these blue lines here, those are the historical holes that Inco did?
They are, yeah.
Okay.
And so this longitudinal section was recreated by using their drill holes and our drill holes, and it's given us a very good understanding now of what the deposit is moving forward.
Especially early stages of a discovery, right? This is giving you a lot of work ahead that helps you out.
Exactly, because we're not reinventing the wheel.
Right.
So we have the benefit of their historical data. We'll be able to put the picture together very quickly and a reasonable cost, and now we're ready to move forward to advance it, mainly in terms of adding more resources to it, making it bigger, and trying to find more deposits there.
Right, and also trying to chase this high grade, new zone, lower zone that they've talked about in press releases. This is the one that really got my attention when they cut into this in the first drill program. That's when I started following the company. And so why don't we move over to this map, because I think we're following this story, right?
Right.
And so over here, why don't you give them, I wanted to tell everybody about this online yesterday, but this has got me even more excited about everything. Yeah. Let's unwrap that a bit.
What we're looking at here, this is a cross section. So we're looking perpendicular to the trend of this long section there. So we're actually bisecting it. So we're looking to the northeast into the board.
Okay.
And what we're seeing here is the feature is it's almost like a wine glass shape.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
So the intrusion itself is the goblet or the
and
upper
there
part.
Again, in that wine glass, the gabbro is that part
again
there, right?
in blue.
Okay.
Which is the silicate phase, which separates out, and then you've got the blebby sulfides in the pink, and the semi-massive and massive sulfide in red.
And that's the main zone there, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
The main zone sits right at the base of the intrusion, so it's underlain by the sediments, and it's overlain by the unmineralized gabbro. Now, one of the most significant things that came out of our drilling program this fall is the discovery, as you've mentioned, of this new lower zone of mineralization.
Right.
And we've had the benefit of at least 6 holes hitting that new lower zone now.
Right.
And upon re-examination of the drill core, going back to the section, we've come up with the theory that our so-called lower zone is actually a feeder zone, or it's a conduit. So that's really the passageway that these fluids are actually coming up into the chamber.
Just to give some of our audience an idea that you're not just throwing these theories out there, you can get an assessment of the angle of the intrusion relative to your drill holes that shows you that this makes sense, right? It's not just something you're throwing
out there. Obviously you have to have the evidence to support your theories, and that is one of the pieces of evidence we're seeing.
In these kind of environments elsewhere, this is what you're expecting, right? You need a feeder to get that.
Quite often within these magmatic nickel copper systems, you do see a feeder zone, but not always. I mean, some of them are deformed. Some of them might have been faulted off. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why you may not see them.
Right.
In this type of situation, we don't think we're seeing a lot of deformation here. What we're seeing here is really probably the way it formed. And but the feeder zones or conduits are quite common within these magmatic nickel copper systems, and typically the mineral assemblies are a little bit different within them as opposed to what you see in the main magma chamber. Your copper values tend to be a little higher. You get a little more bretchiation or breaking up in the feeder zone. Right. Yeah. Okay. You see fragments of the wall rock caught up in them.
Because that's the fluids coming up,
it is.
Right? And so the first location where those fluids came from is going to have the best mineralization.
It's going to be very dynamic.
I got it.
Because the feeder zone, relatively speaking, is pretty small compared to the magma chamber. So you can imagine, the force that's coming up and settling into the magma chamber, and that can happen over and over and over again. So that's what you want a system that is active over a long period of time, because that can have the effect of upgrading the resource. And so that's why sometimes you do get bonanza grades, very good grades in the feeder zone, is because magma has ascended there maybe 4 or 5 times, and it has the effect of
consolidating.
Exactly.
Right.
Upgrading, and that's why quite commonly you do see very good grades within the feeder zone.
Okay, so I got excited because I saw this in the drill hole.
Right.
I'm getting more excited because I like this feeder system concept, because that can go on for a very long way when you're chasing that high grade. Where do we go from here now, Don? You've got a better understanding historically.
Right.
You've drilled some of your own holes. You've found that lower zone. You have a feeder system concept here. Where to next?
Well, our main objectives is to make this bigger. You want to make the deposit bigger in terms of tonnage. You want to keep the grade up. You want to discover additional deposits as well.
And is there a potential for more feeder systems?
There is, and so this is really this is a new area for mineralization. This was never recognized in the past. So we will be drilling some holes.
And that's why it's fair from a geological perspective to call that a discovery, right?
Yes, yeah, it's a new development,
yep.
which adds
if
new.
Nobody ever drilled into something.
Yeah.
Then that's a discovery.
Yeah, and so that'll be one of our prime targets moving forward, is really to test the extent, how deep that feeder zone goes. And you obviously want to keep the grade up there. So we'll be doing some drilling on that feeder zone, and that'll be really concentrated close to surface for obvious reasons.
Okay, yep.
You don't want to drill deep holes right off the bat, so. We'll focus on drilling maybe 2 or 3 holes or tiers of holes.
For my audience, why companies do that is they can, with those shallower drill holes, they can follow this system. And instead of poking from over here trying to catch this, by catching this here, it leads them to where they want to go, so they're not throwing money away by taking a big high-risk shot at it. They're able to learn a lot from that drilling.
Yeah, and you have to be very, very systematic about it. And for nickel copper systems, you really can't step out that far, really, because things can change very quickly.
Because you were telling me earlier, they can bend and fold and move in different directions.
They can do whatever they want, really, depending where the porosity, where the open space filling is. If there's fractures that are running perpendicular to one another, then the magma can take off in that direction, really.
But the nice part here is, Don, you've got that here. You've got it here, so now you got to
We've identified it, and that's very significant. And so that would be one of the priorities. Priority 2, if we go over to this map over here.
We're going to move over here. Is that all right, Cameron?
Yep.
Good, perfect.
This map here, and we can pull it up like that. Again, we're looking to the northwest. And this is the known zone of mineralization, again, that's plunging steeply at about 60 degrees, which we saw in the longitudinal section. What we've done is we've projected some of the conductors that we obtained in a recent large loop EM survey, which was conducted on the ice. The idea of that, of course, was to find any conductors that were associated with the deposit, or that were located close to it, or that were located along strike. So what this
now, is that the conductor? Is the gabbro the conductor, or the mineralization?
Well, conductors, there could be a lot of things that are conductive in this environment. The strongest conductors are going to be the sulfides, there's no question.
Okay.
When you get minerals like pyrrhotite and penlandite, they're very, very conductive.
Okay.
So you're really looking for the strong conductors.
Exactly.
And so, there is a strong conductor associated with the known zone of mineralization, but as you can see on this, we have a conductor that's situated below the main zone, which may be picking out.
You said you thought there might be the potential for more as you get deeper too, right?
Well, the initial survey was seeing down to a certain depth. That's as deep as it goes, and then really beyond that, you're going to be drilling holes, and then you do downhole EM surveys. So this is from the surface, but we're still seeing down to about from here to here is a good 350, 400 meters.
And big conductors.
With big conductors there. So
in a place where you've got the juices flowing.
Exactly. Yeah. So. The second component of the exploration program will really be to test some of these conductors, particularly the strong ones, that are very close to the mineralization, because they offer potential for, say, a parallel zone, a zone that's been faulted off, or just a separate zone altogether. So those are obviously very high quality targets, given that they're so closely associated with a known zone of mineralization.
Now, is there anything that can sort of tell you about the potential for volume of material that was coming up during the intrusion, or?
There are ways, and a lot of that is really what you're observing.
Where I'm getting at is my background's a lot in diamonds, so when we talk about a pulse, and we're seeing usually see more than one pulse in a kimberlite.
Oh, you do.
So and if you go to a certain fields in diamonds, if you see a large kimberlite, you're usually going to find more of those. I'm trying to put it into my diamond terms.
Yeah, in nickel copper systems, I think 20, 30 years ago, if you spoke to a lot of geologists, and particularly ones that are really knowledgeable in magmatic nickel copper systems, a lot of them would have said you need a large intrusion to host a significant, large, high-grade nickel copper deposit.
Right.
We know now that's not the case, really.
Okay.
There's deposits that I know of, including this one, But ones that are down, there's a deposit down in Michigan called the Eagle Deposit, which is being mined by Lundin Mining right now.
I heard of that.
There's a deposit in Minnesota called the Tamarack Deposit, which is being worked by Talon. Talon Minerals.
Did Duluth have that at one time?
No, it used to be a Kennecott property.
Okay.
And a junior of Toronto by the name of Talon Resources is working in that. Both those instances are very small intrusions. In fact, they're comparable to the size of...
Well, I've had this conversation about high-grade gold before.
Yeah.
And someone was sort of making a case of how, how you look at these drill holes and you're not seeing enough continuity. Well, in a high-grade system, you don't need as much volume.
That's true.
In order to have something mineable, right?
So it's really more a function of not the size of the intrusion. What's really important in my mind is that whatever that system is, the channelway, the conduit, is that's active over a long period of time.
Got it.
So it gives multiple opportunities
for
these sulfide phases to separate out from the silicate phase. So that's the most important factor. And when you're looking at drill core, just by observing, then you get clues from the drill core. Things like brecciation of the sulfides. How broken up are they? Can you see several periods of it there? That's a clue that that system has been operative for a long period of time. And I think that's the critical thing when it comes to these systems.
Perfect. Well, on that note, let's wrap it up. But Don, on the near term, drilling, right? Got some drilling coming up when?
It'll likely be mid-February. We're at the end of January right now, and we have to do a bit of preparation ahead of time. But mid-February I think is a reasonable date.
I'm gonna twist his wrist to make sure Don goes after and keeps chasing that high-grade lower zone that I'm excited about. Thanks a lot for joining us today,
My pleasure.
Don.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for our cameraman here, was provided by CEO.ca. And go check out Wolfden. Their stock symbol is WLF, and their website is www.wolfden.com.
Right.
There you go. Have a great day.